Hey neighbor, starting onions from seeds. Well, there's a couple different techniques you need to know according to what kind of onion you're growing. Well, we're storing our bubbin onions in these mesh bags this year. I put them underneath my barn, hang them from the rafter right there. They get good air circulation. These onions are about 5.5 months old and they're still holding up well. We got plenty of onions. So I think this is a great way to store them. Now, if you got one of those shelves you could put up with a wire bottom on it, heck, that'll work too. But just for something quick, these mesh bags seem to be the trick for these bubbin onions. All right, so now let's get to it. Growing your onions from seed. Well, in my book, there's 3 different types of onions. They are bunching onions, as you see right here. And we eat these onions just like they are. You can buy them in the grocery store. You can grow your own. You've seen them in the restaurants before. Bunching onions, you grow by seed, directly seeded into the ground or the raised bed. I've had better luck growing them in the raised bed, but look here. This right here is the one you want to grow. It's in a seed tape. I grew them last fall. It works extremely well. So if you want bunching onions, this seed tape, I think, for the home garden is the way to go. You can put it in the ground, keep it watered. It's got fertilizer in there. It's easy peasy. Now, the next one's going to be multiplying onions. These are some I want to plant this coming month. You can see there, these were harvested back during the springtime. We break these apart and we plant these little bulbs here. These do not have seeds. They have what we call false seed heads on them. And the only way you can grow these are by planting another bulb there. And they multiply out. These things will shoot up. They'll have green on them like this right here, but the bulb will be a little bit bigger. Multiplying onions. Can't grow these from seeds. This is what we're going to talk about today because this is what most people want is the bubbin onions. We grow these from seeds, but we do it a little different way. We do not direct seed bubbin onions into the ground for 2 different reasons. One of them is weed control. If we put these seeds in the ground, it's going to be about 8 weeks before they get pretty good size and we're going to have a lot of weed competition. Number 2 is spacing. Your spacing's got to be right. If you have 2 side by side, then you're going to have a misformed onion. We don't want that. Got to have correct spacing, around 6 inches on that right there. Plants is the trick for that. We grow our plants, we transplant them into the ground to get correct spacing and to have a weed-free garden to give them a good head start. Now the question is, how do you do that? Well, I'm going to show you. All right, for the home garden, there's 2 different ways. I've done this before. If you got a small raised bed that's got good organic soil in there, you can make your onion bed. Plant them thick in there and cover them up and keep them wet. You can grow onion transplants like that, no problem. And you can grow a lot of them in a 4x4 or 4x8 bed, more than what you could plant and probably your neighbor too. It will work. But I think the best method for the home gardener is grow them in trays like this right here. This is a 338 tray. Now this tray here is perfect for growing onions. It's deep. It's what we call a deep 338. It has a small cell right there. We don't need a lot of cell space for onions. Also, it's got these little ribs in there to keep those roots from getting root bound. All the onion breeders that I know of use these 338 cells to grow small amounts of onions. Now, when we grow our large amount of onions for our plant sale this fall, we'll grow them in the ground, but we have to fumigate. It's quite a process, more than what the home garden needs to go to. This right here is going to be perfect for you. And look here, 338 plants in 1 tray. All right, so I just fill this up with Pro Mix or Sun Grow. It doesn't matter, a good pot medium. I like to pre-wet it because this stuff sometimes it don't take the water that well. It takes a few waterings to get it nice and wet. Come in here with my finger and I'll just press in little indentions there and all 338 trays. Don't take but just a minute. All right, so we got our flat ready to plant. When do we need to plant these and what kind do we need to plant? Well, first of all, you need to pay attention to this map right here. We're in short day zone, so we want to plant a short day variety, and I got some varieties I'm gonna go over with you today, but the last one I'm gonna show you is not a short day variety, but it is a great one, especially for you people that live in the middle of the country. But let's go over each one of these short day varieties and pick the one we want to plant. All right, folks, we have got 1015Y Texas Super Sweet Onion, developed by Texas A&M University. This one right here is probably one, if not the most popular Texas onion out there. Of course, it's a short day onion, but it produces a large yellow sweet onion around 1 pound average, 4 to 5 inches in diameter. And this is a good one, 115 days to maturity. Now, as with most all Texas onions, this is a round or a globe shaped onion right here. And the 1015 actually stands for when they recommend planting it, but we're gonna get into that a little bit later. 1015 is a good plant date for the short day onion. You can plant these a little longer than you may have thought possible in the past, but Texas 1015. All right, Plethora, and I've probably grown this variety as much as I have any of them. This right here makes what we call those massive jumbo sweet onions. It is a yellow onion. It is a Grand X. A Grand X type with the X on the end means it is a flat type onion. It performs well in the fall. Man, 180 days to maturity. Now this is considered a medium slot variety. This was not going to mature out as quick as some of the rest of them. This is going to mature out probably 2 to 3 weeks after some of these more earlier varieties, but this was a good one. Grows and makes just about as big as onion as I've ever seen. Red Creole, folks, this is one of the ones we're growing for plants this year. Of course, it's a short day variety. Bright red, flattened onions. It's one of those Grand X types. Has crisp texture and a great onion flavor. Now, Red Creole is an heirloom. It's an open pollinated variety, and it makes those bright, flat onions. It does have a little bit of a bite to it. It's a little bit spicier than most other onions, but being a name called Red Creole, would we expect any different? For you like those spicy onions, Red Creole is going to be the one for you. Well, here we have Savanna Sweet, and yes, this is a Vidora approved variety right here. Short day onion. It makes a large onion, and they're golden yellow. It's early maturing, and it is a Grand X shape. It has those flattened shape right here. 125 days of maturity. What a wonderful name, Savanna Sweet. Sofire red onion. Now this is the one we've been growing for the last couple of years for plants. We're not growing it this year, although it is a wonderful red onion. This right here is a Vidora approved variety. It has excellent bolting tolerance and has high pink root resistance. It's one of the earliest red onions on the market. It is a Grano shape, so this is going to be more like the globe shape. It's not a flat onion right there. Around 150 days to maturity. And here we have Texas Grano 502 onion. You see Grano on the name right there. There again, that's an indication that this is a globe shape or a round shape onion, not one of the flat ones right there. Now this one right here has white flesh and like a straw colored skin, mild flavor. Man, it's a good one to eat. They say it eats like an apple. A large round globe-shaped onion, and it's known to store well. All right, folks, here we got Texas early white onion for you guys that want those Texas white onions right here. An open pollinated variety known for its vigor and resistance to bolting. So if you get some warm weather, you don't have to worry about this one bolting on you right here. It does make a white onion. It's a sweet onion, globe shape, averages around 1 pound, 4 to 5 inches in diameter, 110 days to maturity. All right, so folks, right here is my favorite short day variety at the moment. Now, I have a tendency to change up, but I love this one right here, Vidora. This one we will have in plants this year. This is a short day variety. It makes those big onions. Most of the ones I grew last year were the Vidora. It performs in the southern states as good or better than any variety I know. Now look here. This one has a slightly flat, and it's kind of a flat Grand X type. Excellent bolting tolerance. These things are huge. What I love about this one, this is an early matured onion. So us as home gardeners in the springtime, we normally love to get through those onions so we can get something else planted. This one right here makes every time easy to grow, matures off early so we can get that bed flipped and get our summer garden plants in there. Vidora. If you've never grown this one, you got to give it a try. All right, folks, I promise you something special, so here it is. Candy onion. It's a hybrid day neutral or intermediate day onion. This is the only one I'm going to show you today. I want to tell you, folks, this is the most popular onion in home gardens in the United States. Now, this is a Grand X type, so it's a little bit on the flat side here. It does good pretty much in all regions except for the deep south and the far north. Anything in the middle of the country, this is the one you want to grow. It produces a sweet, round bulb, and man, it is good. Early maturing, will store extremely well. Candy onion, this is the one for you guys in the middle of the country. I guarantee you won't regret it. All right, so when do you plant these onions? Well, for us here in the south on these short day varieties, we want to plant them in these trays in September. Anytime in September will be okay. Now, onions, once you get them in the trays and get them growing, are pretty doggone forgiving. So you've got a a pretty good window there when you could plant them. Which ones should we plant today? We got the whole month of September to figure out when we want to plant these right here. We could actually go into October on some of these varieties and still be okay. If we plant them now, these things are going to be ready about the 1st of November, which is fine time to plant short day onions. But we can plant these short day onions all the way up to January and be fine. Hence the name, the 1015 Texas Super Sweet. You could plant these as late as November, 8 weeks growing time, you into December. You still got time to plant them. So the question is, which one of these short day onions are we going to plant today? Well, it's been a while, so I'm going to plant 1015 Texas Super Sweet onion. All right, I actually don't have but 250 seeds in this pack, so I'm going to plant the Texas Super Sweet, and I'm going to put another variety on the other side. Now, these onion seeds ain't as small as some seeds, but they are a little bit on the small side, and they're irregular shape there. But, you know, you can hand plant them pretty decent in a tray. Now, I try not to get one seed to the tray, but heck, every now and then I'm going to get 2, maybe even 3 in there. But here's what we want to do. After these things germinate and come up, we want to go back and thin those out to 1 per tray. If we don't, and we leave 2 or 3 in there per tray, and we go to transplant these things out just like that, then we're going to have misformed bulbs, and we don't want that. All right, I got some room left. I think I'm going to finish up this tray with a Texas Grano 502. That way I got a solid tray of Texas onions. You know, here in Georgia, we think the dead gum by day onions is the thing. Texas does really great well with their onions as well. They grow a lot of onions in Texas, and they could care less about a by-day onion. They want a Texas sweet onion. For some reason, Texans prefer those round-shaped onions. In Georgia here, we want those flat onions. Now, that's changing a little bit, and up around by-day, they're starting to grow some of those Grano with those round-type onions, but I don't know why it is, but I go to the store, I want to pick me out a flat onion. I just think flat onions should be a little sweeter. The reality is that's not the case, but that's just the way we was raised. If Mama sent us to the store, she went to the store, she picked up a flat onion. This is what we used to. Really and truly, one of them's just as sweet as the other, I think. All right, so you can cover these with perlite, which is probably the best thing, but if you don't have perlite, don't sweat it. Now this right here is the regular pot medium that I just used to pot them in, and I'm going to put this on there and wet this in, and this will work fine. I've done this a lot of times before. Might not work quite as well as perlite, but it works pretty good. All right, you just want to cover them up a little bit, not a lot. Keep them wet. I'm probably going to wet these things 3 or 4 times a day. Keep them nice and wet. We got good holes underneath the bottom, so they're going to drain well. We don't want them sitting in water. Now, ideal germination temperature for onions is going to be about 75 degrees. Anywhere between, I don't know, 62 and 77 is probably okay, but if you can ideally set it about 75 degrees. Now, I'm not going to use a heat mat on these because here we are in fall of the year and we got pretty good onion germination temperatures. Now, just a few days, these start sprouting and come up. When they do, we want to thin them back to 1 plant per cell there. We want to start hitting them with some 20-20-20 water-soluble fertilizer because onions are pretty heavy feeders. And then, as these plants shoot on up, we want to take our scissors and cut them back. We want to keep these plants cut back. Every time they shoot up, we cut them back. What that does is stresses the bulb a little bit and make those bulbs get bigger. If you don't keep them cut back, you're going to end up with some spindly plants with real small bulbs. And then in November, about 8 weeks, it's going to be a perfect time to start planting our short day onions in the ground there. But now we can plant these short day onions all the way up till January and be fine. So if you're getting a later start on these, that's perfectly okay. Just keep in mind it's going to take you about 6 to 8 weeks at best to grow these things out from the time you see them in a tray to the time to put them in the ground. All right, so what about you guys who want to plant the candy onions? Now you're in that intermediate day right here on the map. Great variety for you. What you want to do is probably plant these around the 1st of November, somewhere there, and you got a little window in there you can play with. These things are going to grow off slower than our short day onions that we're planting now because our weather is warm, ideal growing conditions, and we're going to grow these things off in about 8 weeks. However, when we get in November, our weather's going to cool off more, and these plants are going to grow off a lot slower. That's okay. If we put these in the transplant trays 1st of November and we give them 10 to 12 weeks to grow out and they're really forgiving, they'll hold in them trays perfectly fine. Then we're ready to plant these early spring, which is the perfect time for you guys in the middle of the country to plant that candy onion. So plant yours November. I say you got 4 to 5 weeks window there. You can plant these and be fine. And then you'll have your onion plants ready when it's time for you to plant. Simple rules with planting onions by seed. Plant the right type for your area and plant them at the right time.